Cradle, Dogs of Fount, Chapter 32, Part 2. Nate and Heather and Lou were about to part ways as the small talk died down, but a smile crept across Lou's face and Nate knew he had something juicy to say. "Guys, I got a mission that I can push to get approved," Lou said. "Great gear for all of us. We can keep what we find. We just gotta take down or arrest the outlaws running the crap." "Is it worth it?" Nate asked. "Yeah, I think so. They said they got Renfield autos with extended mags, full auto 9s, smart grenades, stuff like that. Stuff that could save our butts if we get deployed in serious situations," Lou explained. Nate zipped up his tactical jacket, noticing that it was a little too cool. He took his cigarettes out of his pocket and raised his eyebrows at Lou. Lou nodded and Nate passed him a cigarette. He got one too and lit it. They smoked in silence for a moment. Nate shrugged. "I'm down. You, Heather?" Nate asked. "Fine. What kind of outlaws?" Heather asked. "A normal set. They're not idiots, but no match for the kind of organization we got going here," Lou said. Heather nodded and looked off at a transport truck with a wedge-shaped nose pulling into the grounds. Nate looked back too and wondered what they were doing here. "I'll get the details. Hey, I'll let you guys get cozy again." Lou winked at Nate and turned to walk toward his building to the southwest. "See you, screwball," Nate said back. They'd got approved for the mission about 3 days ago from some sergeant they'd never heard of, but as Nate said, legit's legit. Heather woke up before Nate and made a simple breakfast of boiled eggs and coffee, later telling Nate when he awoke that she didn't want to weigh them down. The sun shone crisply through their east-facing living room windows. Nate strapped his knife with the sheath on his right thigh. They couldn't bring their own firearms on the mission, but Lou would have what they needed in the vehicle. Nate guessed they would have to travel in 2 trucks to fit the whole team. Heather had become much more aware of nanosticks and med packs since Nate fought off the wolf, and she was on the edge of her queen-size bed, rolling the first aid kit into a black bundle that could fit strapped around her waist and resting on the small of her back. They relaxed on the couch, determined to finish their mugs of coffee before they got into whatever was waiting for them. In the elevator ride down, Nate hooked his arm around Heather's neck and kissed her on the forehead, which led to what Nate called a smooch sesh, which caused Heather to giggle as they walked out to the black first-floor lobby. There was Chris, a tall warrior, joking around with Beckworth and Gamble. Nate thought they were cool, but Chris liked to bust balls just a little too much to be around for too long. Chris joked around a lot, but it barely covered the chip on his shoulder, and Nate didn't know what that was for and didn't care to find out. The two groups nodded at each other as Nate and Heather passed them on the way out of the glass doors. They'd have to walk about 5 city blocks north through the southern edge of Philly in order to meet Lou and the team at the trucks or whatever transport was offered to them. They strapped up in the middle of an empty street in the old inner city neighborhood. The sun had glinted off the hardware and gave off a sheen on Nate's barrels and muzzles. It was a time of reflection as always before going into a firefight. Nate and he guessed the rest of the guys needed to put this risk into perspective before jumping in. They rode in 2 black transport SUVs and stopped at the border of the old industrial area. Nate could use this dusty and moody part of the city as a landmark because of the 2 vase-like smokestacks that sat behind a few of the factories with smashed-out windows. The team was going on foot the rest of the way to a 2-story factory surrounded by other old mills and textile shops, now all defunct. They all trotted single file in a neat line on the edges of the roads and close to the buildings for cover. The pink shelled colored building they were currently gliding by was where they had to make one of the final turns until they reached the target building. Nate led the line and stopped at the corner. He peeked around to see if there was anything to worry about, but just saw blowing trash and crows perched on old power lines. He moved and the rest started the line they formed again. They were approaching the spot where Heather was going to break off and climb to higher ground for her sniper nest. Nate stopped the line between two tall buildings and patted her shoulder as she branched out and climbed a fire escape ladder up towards her spot. Nate looked back and nodded at the rest of the guys to get ready to approach the drab, brownish-gray building where the outlaws were based.